More head drawing. 9:30, and I just got nuked in the hot tub, so I don't feel like doing anything, but I'm gonna draw because I have the excuse that I'm recording a video for the 5 or so people that get to have the pleasure of viewing this masterpiece. So let's draw. We're gonna draw more heads. And I'm just so excited as always. So let's start off here with more head quick sketch. We're gonna start off with this lady. Again, all this is from earthsworld.com. I just spent like a half an hour messing about with the recording equipment. It's nice when you decide to draw and instead you fart around with getting the right angle for your nonsense to record you drawing and then lose all your energy in the process and end up not wanting to draw very much anymore, but you know, that's the way the cookie crumbles sometimes. This angle here. Going for a more big shape approach than in my last video where I just went straight in to eyes and stuff and just started shading right away or mapping the features. For this one, because the head has a pretty simple oval shape to it and there's not a whole ton going on in the contours, I just wanted to kind of get that in for starters, and now I'll work into some more of these defining features. Kind of want to get the shape of these eyebrows, even though the eyebrows are going to get lost into the larger shadow shapes that are going on around them. Those eyebrows have a lot of character to them, and I want to make sure that that stays. And I also want to use it as a tool for drawing. Pay attention to those shapes, and that'll help me build these more what would you say, these more mysterious shadow patterns around it. That'll help me build those up, because there's all kinds of little creases and little muscles in this area that they're not as obvious how to design them, but if you get the brows in, you can kind of use those to work your way around those shapes, starting off with a shape that makes sense. There's a lot of complexity in that area. I'm going to have this be more or less a quick sketch session. Just do like last time, just a whole page of these and call it a night. Just have like a teeny bit of light hitting the upper lid there of that eye, and that's all you see. The rest is just in shadow. Indicating here where you see the cast shadow hitting the bridge of the nose. So that needs to be crisp. This also needs to be pretty crisp here as we come down the form of the nose itself and soften up around here. Yeah, that nose is going to be too long. I know that right off the bat, so I'm going to make sure that I correct that right away. Worrying less about, again, what's going on in the shadows and just more about finding the spot where the light turns into shadow. The shadow here off the eye socket is very close to the shadow starting at the wing of the nose. So that's a really useful landmark in this drawing in particular. Getting this really soft and not going too dark in here is going to be important. Also not too big. Right now that's coming out a little far. So this cast shadow right here I'm drawing, this is the cast shadow from this fold here. The light is coming this direction and it's rolling into shadow here around this round form of the cheek. And then this cast shadow is from this form itself blocking the light. And so you have a crisp edge here and then a crisp edge here as well from the nose blocking the light. So what you have there is two cast shadows joining together right at that tip right there. This should soften up somewhat as we roll into, or as we move away from the nose, since that's what's casting it. So it should soften up as you move away from it. It's soft for the lip as well. So that's a form shadow. You can see that the shape is a little bit, it's not as wide as the shape in the reference. which is an important thing to correct, as I'm judging where the middle of the lips are based on where that shadow terminates into the form of the lips. This is the first drawing today, so I like working a little bit slower when starting. And then as you get confidence, you can naturally start speeding up. Joining this shadow in line with what this shadow up here is doing really helps, because these line up with each other a lot of the time. There's a similar form here in this crease off the lip as there is coming off the wing of the nose, and this one starts about where this one ends. This one kind of tucks in there and then comes back out. Right now, this is looking a little bit low. Shouldn't worry too much about this. I'll probably fill this in and lose the edge into some of this dead space in the page. Watching this line here that I made over here to estimate where I want this cast shadow off the eyebrow to end, because this is the same mark on the other side, and so if it's too much lower or higher, it's not going to look symmetrical. Just like where the lips divide, here'd be the bottom of the lower lip. But the cast shadow on the lower lip is much lower than where these actually divide. It's coming from the right, so it's going to be soft on the right as it rolls into shadow and turn into a crisp edge here. And now it's going to roll over the form of the chin as a sharp edge and back into soft as it meets the form shadow of the chin. I can see a million drawing errors amid that. I have to do my best to kind of ignore a lot of them in the spirit of the exercise of quick sketch. Already this is going to be, probably 20 minutes or so spent on this drawing. So here we have the forehead, and we just have a little bit of hair peeking around the corner. Adding to the width of the head a little bit on that side, but not that much, just a little bit. It's an interesting shape going on here. It's almost like a little bit pointy up here. And the mass of the hair. But you can overdo that pretty easy. You don't want to make her look like she's a cone head. It's important to pay attention to where your center line is when you're designing the shape of this these soft hair strands, so that as you're combing excuse me, as you're kind of combing these in with the side of your pencil, that you're paying attention to the bigger truth, that this is the peak of the arc that you're making with your pencil, right? So when you're doing all these little marks, they should still follow the big truth that they're following that shape around that center line. It's easy to just kind of use the side of the pencil and go, okay, texture, texture, texture. But then you miss the more important truth, which is the shape that the texture is making, based on the form it's going around. Again, here it's going around, it's going on the form of the cheeks, so it's going to follow kind of that sweep that the cheek is making. Top of the ear in this case is pretty much lined up with the eyes, so it's fine to put it in like that. I'm going to bring this up a little bit more. I can see that the top of the ear comes in more than the bottom of the ear does. If you look at it, it's making more of that kind of angle rather than a straight line. The top of the ear is coming closer to the rest of the head than the earlobe is. But it's also getting lost in the hair, so it doesn't need to be distinct. Cast shadow again here is going on the helix inside of the ear, which is makes kind of a funnel or tubular shape. And so the cast shadow on it is going to follow that. And then that cast shadow meets that soft form shadow of the helix. Just indicate the earring. By showing the cast shadow off of it onto the ear. And where it rolls into shadow. I like showing part of this division between the head and the neck, but it's a really good idea to ignore most of it, especially when it's all in shadow like that. And play the game of lost and found. Just show a little bit where it is without drawing a line around the whole thing like that. A little bit of the color here. maybe a little bit of cast shadow off the collar. And last but not least, we need to get in some of this hair shape back here. Where the form of the hair on the skull meets this clump of hair hanging off, you're gonna get a lot of dark in here and more light in here, because it almost forms a crease, you know. You can almost think of it like it's making a little canyon between the skull itself and the hair wedging up next to it. And so in here you get real dark shadow, and then you get those highlights you can see on here, especially here on this side, because the light is coming from up above on the right. So that contrast is seen most here, a little bit less here, because it's not catching as much light, and so the contrast isn't as high. But paying attention to those deviations in the way the light is hitting the form can give you opportunity for some variation in your drawing, so that you're not just doing this whole bunch one value, this whole bunch another value, and all the edges the same. Paying attention to the light and the forms can help you create that variation and add to the believability of the drawing. Okay, so I think that's probably good for this one as far as the lay-in. And I'm mega uber super excited for the next one. So grab my little overpriced Apple trackpad because I can't reach my bloody computer. And I'm gonna find the next drawing. I think we'll do this guy with the glasses now. This is a tricky drawing. Tricky piece of reference to draw from. What I think is tricky is you have the glasses themselves creating a zone of darker tone in the eye sockets, but then you also have all those shapes that you can see behind the glasses, which are linking up with the rest of the head. You can see, for instance, underneath the lower eyes, or the lower eyelids, that little island of light connecting up with the cheekbone. And so you have to find a way simultaneously to unify those shapes while also remembering that the glasses themselves are going to push all of that in to shadow to some degree. So that's going to be what I'm looking out for as I draw this. Is I'm going to have to think how I want to design what's going on in the eyes with glasses and all kinds of cattywampus stuff going on. So that's what I'm going to do. Pretty decent way to start drawings with glasses is to just like draw a line for the frame. Here, this is just like the top. And I'm just indicating that there's like a slight tilt. The right side is just a tad higher. I'm also paying attention compositionally with this page. How much space do I want to leave between this head and this head, you know? Because this is going to be the mark furthest to the right of this head. And most of the head is going to be to the left of that. To think too how much of the head I want to have on the page. Do I want to have the whole head on the page, or do I want the back to kind of fall off the edge of the page? Knowing that the glasses are about half the width of the head, oops, dropped the pencil. I know that if I double that and it's on the page or off the page, that's what's going to happen. Here it's a little awkward because it's going to be slightly, it's going to have just a little bit a space, but it could crop off the page up here and touch it, and it could be kind of annoying looking. So it's better to have it, to leave yourself a little bit of a buffer between the head and the edge if you're going to have the whole thing on, so you don't get any kind of awkward tangents with the edge of the page, or else intentionally have it trail off the edge. So with that being said, I think I'll have these a little closer. And imagine you put the rims into a box. You know, what is the proportion of that box to perfectly fit those two lenses? And I think I'll just go right in with the nose, because that's a very important shape when doing glasses. And again, I'm gonna have to erase that line, because that line was indicating the contour of the face, but since I adjusted the shape of the glasses, now I have to change that as well to better reflect that change. Otherwise, it's just not going to be correct. I'll just fix that. I'll just fix that later on. Right now I just want to lock the nose down. And the reason I erased it was because I went over it with the nose, which just means it's a mistake. They can't both be true. Either the edge of the face is here, in which case the nose should be this direction to the left, or it's not. So rather than erase the nose, I'll just move the edge of the face. Yeah, this is gonna take some work. Here I'm looking where the edge of the eye socket is relative to the edge of the nose. And I can see, edge of the eye socket comes out that much further. No, this is supposed to be a quick sketch, but I'm really nuked from that jacuzzi. I have a inflatable jacuzzi, and it is surprisingly hot for what's supposed to be like a cheap entry-level jacuzzi. And I'm obliterated when I get out of that thing. I might as well be hungover or something. So it's just going to be a slower drawing session. And that's cool. I'm cool with that. Just don't sue me for false advertising, calling this quick sketch. Just consider yourself lucky to have me. It's not like there's thousands of other people on YouTube to watch, learn drawing from. Just be grateful, okay? Plus I have a sweet beard. Not everyone's got a sweet beard, That's worth it right there. A sweet beard covers all kinds of mistakes. It atones for all kinds of nonsense. So if you despise me, please just remember I have a beard and forgive me. I have a beautiful beard. Forgive me. Okay. Yeah, I'm wacky tonight. Oh, blimey. You know, glasses like eye sockets, I mean, one of the things that makes them so bloody difficult is, like eye sockets, you know, they're symmetrical, but you got to deal with perspective, right? So this lens here is going to be wider than this lens. This lens is further away from us, and so there's foreshortening going on. So you have to simultaneously get symmetry as well as, you know, deal with the fact that perspective means your symmetrical stuff doesn't look symmetrical. This needs to be a lot bigger than the other lens. Yeah, this is a bloody nightmare so far, I must say. I am not doing a good job of this at all. Just feel these little marks to help get my bearings. Let's get a little bit more of this contour going. There's also, as you can see, if you look closely at the reference, glasses distort the area underneath. And so you can see on the right side of the image, or his left, that if you look at the contour underneath that lens, there's kind of almost like a break between the contour underneath the lens and as it continues down that side of the face beneath it. And that's another thing where it's kind of up to you how you deal with it. You can draw it like it's in the image, or you can just force there to be continuity between the two. I tend to just create continuity and just line it up because it looks kind of weird. But if you want to be, you know, bloody mosquito on my paper. If you want to be technically accurate, you know, like hyper realistic, follow every truth that you see, then you got to, you know, then that's probably what you're going to do. You're probably going to show that bit of distortion there. quite a long cast shadow. Here we have a cast shadow coming off the lens. There's a lot going on in here. You have like 3 shadows going on, and you have just a little streak of light which is coming off the lens, creating a really bright spot. And you can kind of take or leave that. It's kind of cool looking, but it's also a little bit annoying because it lines up with that crease coming off the side of the nose about perfect. And so one of the risks with trying to put that in is it'll just look like you made that spot too bright, because that's a spot where naturally you'll pop back into the light off of a cast shadow, and it normally shouldn't be that bright. So unless you are really clear that that's what's going on, it's going to look kind of weird. But it does look kind of cool. So I'm going to think about how I want to approach that. We have to decide where the lips start. I'm going to say the top of the lip is about here. They are at an angle. Probably should have seen the angle. I mean, I did see the angle here, but those lips, you know, I mean, they're just tilting more than the rest of what I've got, but they kind of are doing that in the reference too. And that could just be part of his expression. You know, maybe he's like, you know, squeezing that side of his mouth a little bit more, causing it to have a little bit of a tilt to it. So soft in that area. I do think I'm going to drop this rim just a little. Kind of lost that idea of the tilt we got going on here. Kind of lost the plot a little bit. But once again, you know, there is supposed to be a you know, some symmetry between these glasses. So if I lower that, I gotta account for the loss of symmetry I've created. But fortunately, the easy solution, which is logical, is, you know, lower. We're lowering the top of this side, so let's lower the bottom of that side, you know. But yeah, these glasses are pretty jank. We'll have to save the day with when we shade it in. Definitely say the chin got too big, or the rather the bottom third of the face got too big. That is an easy mistake to make when you start getting fixated on these little nooks and crannies and working on the lips and the chin and all manner of stuff. Here's a great spot for a lost edge. When I fill in this area here, it'll join up nicely with this and in here, and it'll go into all of that and create a nice unity to the whole page. I think I'm going to work on the shapes going on inside of the glasses, you know, which would be the eye socket. And there is a lot going on there. And you just got to do your best to simplify it, which is not a bloody easy thing to do. I like the idea of preserving just a little light shape there and that sea of dark. And I'm going to try and get a little bit of the same thing going on this side. Paying attention to symmetry. And I think what I will do is I'll lose everything going on back here and not pay any attention to the ear or any of that. Just let it disappear into shadow, which it's in. And the last little piece of design I'll do is just this hair. And just create a nice cast shadow off of that with a little bit of these like teeth marks almost, using the side of the pencil, which will help indicate the fact that what's casting the shadow is hair, and that it has that broken edge to it. It has that funk going on. It's not just a crisp line. That wouldn't be appropriate for a shadow that's being cast by hair. And then same with the shadow on the hair. And just back here, just very big and bold, you know. As you get toward the edges of your drawing or your composition, bigger, you know, brush strokes or pencil marks or whatever it is, looser, more generic, is not only acceptable, it's actually kind of nice. It helps draw your eyes to more of the specific stuff going on in here. Okay, I'm going to take a quick break. I think I will just join these up. I don't think I want to mess with that little dagger line, little pointy, tiny line from the light coming off the glasses there. I think I just want to join that up. And you have to decide when you're drawing how much of the specific to sacrifice in favor of unity. And, you know, there's a million answers to how you want to do that. You can do hyperrealism where every hair strand is a brush mark, or you can do very abstract painting where the head is just a blob. So in this case, I think it's cool to ignore that little highlight and just join the shadows up there, and it'll make shading easier and it'll make the shape pop. So I'm gonna go get a drink of water, contemplate deep philosophical questions, and survey my rubber duck collection for potential acquisitions, and then I'll be back for another drawing. So it's like 11 o'clock, and I am tired and I want to go to bed. But I promised you there would be a third drawing, so here I am, fulfilling my end of the bargain. So if you made it this far into the video, consider yourself rewarded. If you have endured my long-winded rants and nonsensical commentary, here's the payoff. You get to see my beard again, and you get to see a third drawing. So I'm gonna call this Glasses Redemption, because I'm gonna do another guy with glasses. And then I'm gonna go to bed and put on my blindfold and prepare for my tennis lesson in the morning. So here we go. I am once again going to start with the tilt of these glasses. I'm hoping that the camera is going to pick up on the entirety of this head. The chin might go a little bit out of view. I'll look over the footage at the end and see if I got it or not. And if I did not, I will grab the camera and make sure there's a little clip of the full drawing so you can see the glorious museum-worthy results, which I can personally not guarantee. Nor will I ever guarantee. Now this one is closer to a straight on, so the lenses are going to be more or less symmetrical. So that is one thing I can work with. The light is coming from above. So my soft core shadows and form shadows are going to be starting up above, and cast shadows are going to be crisp underneath, but there's not going to be as much of a directional emphasis of that where the left side is crisp and the right side is soft, or vice versa. It's just more about, is the shadow starting above or whatnot. I don't know. Can't even think anymore. Hot tub plus 11 o'clock plus tennis in the morning. I'm done. I'm just drawing. All right, let's just do the glasses. Just do the glasses. You'll figure out what I mean. Just grab a dictionary and a legitimate art instructor, and you'll know exactly what I'm talking about. I promise. But if I'm cryptic enough, maybe even that's not enough. We'll have to see. There's always hope. Again, we got a slight tilt to these that it's just a pain in the butt getting. And I'm trying to get it, but man, it's a pain in the butt. Yeah, a little bit closer than that. Really should utilize some rhythms across the center line, force some symmetry, or my natural talents just ain't cutting it. Okay. We're seeing a little bit of, gosh, what do you even call this thing? Glasses anatomy. The leggy thing, the thing that goes around your ear. We're seeing a little bit on this side, but not on the left. It's covered in hair, and the angle is such that it's almost like if you look at a pencil straight on, and all you just see basically a little tip. You know, it's the whole pencil is hiding behind that circle, the butt of the pencil or the tip. And that's kind of what's going on this side of the glasses, and that's just a perspective thing. Depending on how you're oriented, you'll see more or less of that, you know. And in this case, the shift between this side and this side relative to the viewer is such that you don't see hardly any of this. Alrighty, so there's just a little bit of that. I'm gonna go straight into the nose and some of these cast shadows from the glasses on it. Nice and soft. Joint into the cast shadow under the nose, nice and crisp there. And now look at this cast shadow, you know. What's making the shape, right? When you've drawn this cast shadow, don't just put it in like, oh, there's a little scoop here, and there's a little divot there, and there's a scoop here. This part of the cast shadow is there because the ball of the nose above it is casting it. And so if this little line here starts bowing down at that point, it means something, right? If it lines up perfectly vertically, it means the sun is directly overhead. If this cast shadow is slightly to the right, it means the sun is slightly to the left, making the shadow fall at that angle. But, you know, always pay attention to what you're saying about the light source based on what's going on in the cast shadow, because that's really important. And recognize what's happening in the form that's casting the shadow, as that's the reason you have all these bumps in here. They're not just there for no reason, you know. It says something about the form, it says something about the light. And if you tell the wrong story, it's not going to look the way it should. And again, here we're saying there's a tilt to this head. It's tilting like that. So you're going to see that in the cast shadow as well. You're going to see this line match up at that tilt to the other side of the shadow. Assuming the thing that's casting that shadow also lines up, which in this case it's the wings of those nostrils, right? And so they are going to be symmetrical. And so they're going to line up at the angle that the head is tilted. Which I could do a little bit better. Okay, let's just go straight into the lips here. See that there's just a small space between the lips and that shadow, so just do a small space and not bring out the measuring rod. Small spaces are way easier to get right and estimate than large proportions. You know, I mean, think about it, right? This space here between the top of that lip and the bottom of that cast shadow, how wrong can you be? You know, they're like, there's just like a smidge between them, you know. But if instead we're asking where does this hair crop relative to the glasses, that's a much bigger space. It's not just like, oh, the hair's here. You know, you have to, you know, if you could get it here, you could get it here. You know, there's a much larger margin for error as you start dealing with bigger spaces between the things that you're drawing. So anytime you have the opportunity to use small spaces and as a means for measuring proportion and making decisions, it's a wise thing to do, because you can minimize your margin for error. You know, a lot of people say start with the big shapes and then move into the small shapes, and that's totally cool. That's a fine way to work. But given that your margin for error in the big shapes is bigger than when you do the small shapes, it can be useful after you have a general loose proportion to lock down those smaller shapes and then readjust the big shapes around those, because in the smaller shapes you're more likely to be accurate so as to judge the big shapes off of them. And where this lines up with the nose. Cast shadow off of these glasses, curving around the form of the cheek. And could go a little bit lower with that one. Soften up as it continues and gets further away from the object casting them, which is the glasses. there's just a whole crap load of things happening right here. You have like the hair, you have this tiny sliver of an ear, you have the glasses, you have a cast shadow off the glasses, you have the cheekbone, and it's just a whole crap load of stuff. And it's up to you how much you want to put in. I think just a little indication of the light shape of the cheek dividing from the cast shadow coming off the glasses. And just join that with a little sliver for the ear. And just a soft indication for the hair covering it, you know, is just when it's just a good spot to simplify when it gets all complicated and funky. It is time to simplify. I can see these lips go out way too far. So I'm just going to bring them back just a smidge, just so it's not so crappy. Just cut down on the crappiness. I slide them out. Minimize the crap load and it'll go a long way. Doesn't have to be like masterpiece, just slightly less crappy. You know, that's just a good axiom to live by. Just make it slightly less crappy. That's the artistic spirit. It all sucks, and I just want it to be slightly less sucky this time. If I could just passionately pop out a piece that's somewhere between absolute nonsense and ascending towards mediocrity, you know, that's the life right there. That's what you put all your work in for. Eventually, someday you can go, yeah, you know, this was like half decent, I guess. And that's just the big payoff for doing art. Someday you can go, okay, yeah, that drawing was like not as sucky as the rest I did. I mean, and then you can just walk off into the sunset and feel that profound satisfaction. It wasn't as crappy as it could have been today. It was like almost decent even. And that's the joy of drawing. Alright, little indication for the shadow on the top of the chin. Line that up. I'm looking at this shape here in order to line up this shape down here. we'll just have this cast shadow come off the page. I think that'll be cool. All this really needs, besides the hair and a little bit of division for the nostrils and stuff, is a little indication up in here. He's kind of squinting his eyes a little bit. He's doing, you know, because he's wearing sunglasses, but I guess he still needs to squint for some reason. I don't know. So there's a little bit of muscle action up there, which is creating these little halftones. And is a part of the expression. I think it is time to decide where's the hair. I'm going to say it's there, and it finishes to my eye just a little bit right of the center line. This will be interesting how I decide to link these shapes up. I'd say that's a little high. And so now I'm thinking when I shade this, I'm going to have a little pocket of light right here because you have these lighter hair strands, and that's just going to be part of the design. Is I was thinking, you know, link all this up with shadow, this side here of the face to the throat, and I'm thinking it might be kind of fun to break up using this hair shape with a little bit of light just in the middle of that, and it might work and it might not. But we're gonna do it. So that next time I draw on camera, I'm less likely to waste your time by making stupid decisions like that. So this is going to be dark here, then light there, and back into shadow on the right. All right, anything else to do on this one? Yep, just a little indication of this form shadow over here and the cast shadow off the glasses. And I think we're good to go. This will all be in shade the rest of it, or in shadow the rest of it. All right. Oop. Sorry. Bumped the camera there. All right, now we get a Well, break my pencil. Pull out the perfectly sharpened dagger out of this lovely box, which I highly recommend if you get pissed off sharpening a pencil for 10 minutes and then breaking it immediately. This is the way to go. These pencils get massage chairs and everything. Lumbar support. They're good. Okay, now I gotta have some fun shading this all in, and I gotta go to bed. Because, you know, when you're like almost 300 pounds, you gotta take your prep for your tennis lessons very seriously, and that includes things like sleep, drinking water, not eating as much food as you normally do. I mean, it's rough, so I'm gonna have to get prepared here pretty soon for those trials. All right, now let's shade. Let's shade this puppy in. Just a little bit of the brows first. All right. All right, let's start with these glasses. Try and move my head out of the way a little bit. Yeah. These glasses do kind of join in with the cast shadow, so I'm going to have to think about if I want to pull out the form of those or just let them meld in with the rest of the dark. Should have thought about that before I started shading, but here we are. There's always something you bloody forget. Ah, stupid pencil. I defy you. Definitely made these lips way too fat. Nothing like the sweet satisfaction of getting to shade it all in and have your suspicions confirmed that it's all crap. That's what we live for. I got a cast shadow under here, which means we're going to want a light shape on of some kind on this side. So I think what I'm going to do is just have this peter out a little bit so that still kind of reads, but this all should be a dark mass anyway, so I mean... Oh, and I'm just realizing I did the bloody... I did the bloody freaking... the shading totally wrong right here. Yeah, that's supposed to be light. Ah, I defy you, drawing. You're now light. That helps when you actually do it the way you're supposed to. Yeah. Alright, well, that one sucked anyways, so. Maybe some of these others will be better. I'm gonna shade them in. Golly, I did it again. Oh, broke the whole thing this time. Piece of crap. I defy you, pencil. Yeah, once again, I'm just like, it's too late. I'm shading in my lights, leaving the darks light. I mean, it's a disaster. Good thing I'm not charging to view this. If I was a real artist, I would be like on Patreon taking your money for this, but I would sue myself if I were doing that. And some false advertising. This guy needs to learn to draw. Let's go into this one. Do I dare shade it without the reference after that performance? I'm displaying those lack of interpretive skills before the whole world. I shall try. I'm telling you something. My sister made me watch the Barbie and the Nutcracker movie today. We didn't even finish it, and the stupid song, I mean, it's Tchaikovsky, so I mean, forgive me for calling it stupid. I mean, okay. All right, it's Tchaikovsky, all right? It's the Nutcracker Tchaikovsky thing. But, man, it's stuck in my head, and, you know, I know he was like a great composer and everything, but in my mind, it's just Barbie right now, and I'm gonna go to bed with Barbie music playing in my head, and oh, it's just mortifying. think my emasculation is complete. You know, it's bad enough having to watch that thing, but to have the music stuck in your head after, ugh, that's just not fair. And again, it is Tchaikovsky, so, you know, that guy was pretty sweet, so maybe I shouldn't complain. And I am just gonna fill the hair in just with one tone. Just with one flat tone. And I'm just gonna indicate the separation between the section on the skull and the section just kind of going wild in the back, just by making it a little darker right there. And what did we say? I suppose that should be a cast shadow there. I'll take a look at the reference for the design for some of that stuff. Right now I'm just going to fill in the... First off, I'm going to soften, because I want to lose that contour there. I had a plan. It was to, you know, have this join to the background, join into the neck, but since I got this guy's head coming here, my new plan is to have... have it lose into the cheek here and into the cheek there. And unify the page that way. Pencil's kind of leaving some texture where I don't want it. A little bit annoying. There we go. Just kind of flatten that out a little bit. Oh, my bloody elbow. Oh, is this broken? No. I felt like that pencil was breaking. There's still time. Just keep it going, keep it going. This is shadow, yes? I'm supposed to know, but I'd better just pull up the reference. I'm not even looking at it. that might be wise to look at the thing I'm drawing. And again, it's weird because the whole shot, the whole lens is kind of in shade. And just kind of lose this guy's hair into that. I want that to be more soft in there. Oh, yeah. I think it's nighttime. So I'm gonna go to bed now. And hopefully that is not too crap. Definitely a little subpar even for my standards. But hopefully you enjoyed. Thank you for watching. And goodbye.